There was a napkin in her coat pocket with someone else's name and number on it. Not written hastily. Not like a joke. It was centered perfectly. Clean handwriting, no smudges, no doodles. Just Everin, 919-5XX, XXXX, with a little smiley face underneath the name. The kind she used to draw on the sticky notes she left in my lunchbox. And here's the thing. That coat. She hadn't worn it in months. It was her too fancy for errands, too casual for events coat. She dug it out only because it matched her navy jumpsuit for the reunion. And when I offered to hang it back up for her that night, like an idiot, I reached into the pocket thinking maybe there was a lip balm or loose receipt I should toss. I wasn't expecting a napkin. I wasn't expecting a name. I wasn't expecting Everin. But let's back up. Not to the beginning of our love story. Not to when we first met. That's irrelevant now. That man's dead. Let me back up to the moment she stood in our kitchen, opened a bottle of Pinot Grigio, and told me with the softness of a pillow over the face, "You deserve someone more simple. I've evolved." Like she was a Pokemon and I was still stuck in the Game Boy version of our marriage. It wasn't a fight. That's what haunts me most. It was clinical. Clean. Like she'd practiced. She said I'd be okay eventually. That she still respected me. That I was a good man, but a misaligned one. Misaligned. As if love was a chiropractor visit gone wrong. She said she was going to stay at her friend Coral's place for a while, until emotions settled. She used that phrase. Like emotions are dust in a jar, you just wait to settle before drinking. Then she left. Took the silver weekender bag I bought her last Christmas, the one she called cute but too small, and walked out like she was heading to yoga. I stood in the kitchen and stared at the half-poured glass of wine she left behind. I don't drink white wine, but I drank that one. Then I drank another. Then I stared at the coat. And that's how I found the napkin. You know when you find something you're not supposed to, and the world doesn't explode? It just tilts slightly, like a crooked painting you didn't notice before, but now can't stop seeing? That napkin tilted my whole damn world. I Googled the number. Nothing. I reverse searched it. Nada. But the name? I dug through her Instagram follows. He wasn't there. Facebook? Private profile. But Coral. Coral had posted a photo from the reunion. Group shot. 15 people standing in front of some downtown bar, with fake ivy walls and string lights. Third from the left. Hand in pocket. Tan blazer. That kind of smirk. The tag read, "At Everin. VHS. Still got it faced with tears of joy." Still got what? I sent the photo to her. No caption. Just the image. She didn't respond for hours. When she finally did, all she wrote was, "Don't do this. Please." Not "Who's that?" Not "You're overreacting." Not "It's not what you think." Just "Don't do this." Which told me everything I needed to know. But I didn't rage. I didn't throw her things on the lawn or post screenshots on Facebook. No. I waited. I watched. I started tracking timelines. Looking through things I never looked at before. Her planner, her notes app, her Uber receipts. I became a detective in my own damn house, trying to prove a betrayal I hadn't been brave enough to accept. And then I found something worse than the napkin. A video. A 22-second video in her deleted folder, saved from Coral's Instagram before it got taken down. Her. Everin. A rooftop. Laughing too close. His hand on her lower back. That video was time-stamped 1 hour after she texted me that she missed me and wished I could be there. She told me I didn't deserve her. So I let her go. But what she didn't know is that I was already planning to show up at her reunion follow-up brunch. Not to confront. Not to cause a scene. Just to see. And what happened there? Changed everything. I told myself I'd only stay 15 minutes. I wasn't invited. I wasn't expected. But I knew where they were meeting. The place Coral always posts about. Some overpriced brunch spot downtown with leafy walls and waiters that look like backup dancers from a Sam Smith music video. I wore a baseball cap. Kept my head down. Brought a book I didn't plan to read just so I'd look like a guy waiting for someone, not watching someone. They came in laughing. Sabina walked in last. God. She looked radiant. That's what made it worse. Because the version of her I'd been holding onto for the past 2 weeks, the one who left mid-sentence, mid-promises, mid-marriage, looked cold, tired, distant. But the version I saw at that table? Smiling, effortless, effervescent. Like the air changed just because she walked through it. Like I hadn't even existed. Like the last 7 years of our life had been a haircut she finally grew out of. She sat down next to him. Everin. I don't know what I expected. Horns? A villain's mustache? Something that screamed, "Hey, I'm the guy sleeping with your wife." But no, he was just a man. Tall, handsome in a second-hand bookstore way. Not threatening. Not flashy. He looked like he journaled. They weren't all over each other. No hands. No kissing. Just the occasional glance. But that glance. You can always tell when a man looks at a woman like he's already seen her naked. Not because of lust, but because of permission. That was the moment my heart didn't break. It calcified. I stayed long enough to watch her touch his wrist when she laughed. Long enough to hear her order, the usual, like she'd been here before without telling me. Long enough to realize that everything I thought was temporary was actually practice for a new chapter she was writing without me. I left. I didn't even finish my coffee. But the damage wasn't done yet. Not even close. Because when I got home, Coral called me. Not a text. A call. At first, I ignored it. I figured she was checking to see if I was alive or Una lived. But something in me, some dumb, hopeful reflex, answered. Her voice was shaking. "Wes, you need to know something. I didn't mean for you to find out like this." Find out what? Apparently, Sabina had reconnected with Everin months ago. Not at the reunion. Not at brunch. In secret. Through a series of professional exchanges on LinkedIn. At first it was innocent. Messages about branding, careers, mutual alumni events. Then came late-night texts. Private emails. FaceTime calls when I thought she was working late. I asked, "So you knew?" Coral paused for too long. I thought it was just a phase. I didn't think she'd go this far. But she brought him to the reunion. Introduced him to everyone. Told people you two were taking a break. We weren't on a break. I was home cleaning grout out of the shower she never used anymore, hoping she'd come back. She was at a rooftop party introducing him like I was a season she skipped. That night, I stood in the hallway staring at our wedding photo. The frame had shifted slightly, crooked, maybe from the door slamming the night she left. Maybe from me bumping into it one of the nights I stumbled through the dark looking for her shampoo, just so I could smell her. I took it down, not out of rage. Just, I don't know, grief, maybe. I laid it face down on the kitchen counter. Then I pulled out her laptop. She never changed the password. I wish she had. The emails were all there. Some deleted, some not. One with the subject, "Wish you'd stayed longer." Another, "Still thinking about that hallway moment." And another, "You make me feel like the version of myself I was always afraid to be with Wes." I closed the laptop, went outside, sat in the truck with the engine off for 47 minutes. I counted. Then I came back inside, poured a glass of milk, because everything else in me felt sour, and I started writing this. Because I realized something. She didn't just betray me. She rewrote me. She told a new story about who I was. A man holding her back. A man too small for her future. A man she had to leave behind to become her full self. And the scariest part? I started to believe her. But that was before I learned what Everin actually wanted. Coral told me something else on that call. Something about his past. Something Sabina clearly didn't know, or pretended not to. And that secret? It's what gave me the courage to finally do something I never thought I'd do. Expose her. Not to the world. To herself. I've always believed people lie in two ways. With their mouths and with their silence. Sabina did both. After Coral's call, I didn't sleep for nearly 40 hours. I didn't eat for the first 20. My body kept operating out of spite. But my mind, it was crawling with rot. Every photo, every laugh, every "I love you" started replaying with dubbed-over subtitles. Different meanings. New implications. And beneath it all, a quiet whisper. "You missed it. You missed everything." But it was what Coral said about Everin that finally snapped the dam. He dated 2 of her old classmates, she told me. One of them disappeared from socials for almost a year after. The other one, she started a burner account last fall to post anonymously about him. Stuff about manipulation, therapy speak abuse, isolating partners. I didn't believe it until now. I don't know what chilled me more, the idea that Sabina had fallen for a man like that, or the realization that I might have, too, if I were in her shoes. You see, Everin wasn't some side character in her life. He was rewriting it, page by page. And she was handing him the pen. I started digging. Everin's profile was curated, a modern mystic entrepreneur, whatever the hell that means. Founder of a mindful branding agency called Visuals Without Borders. I found articles where he used phrases like vulnerability is a currency and emotional alchemy. But I didn't care about the buzzwords. I cared about the women, and it wasn't hard to find them. Not if you know where to look. I joined a private alumni Facebook group under a burner. Said I was planning a podcast about post-college life. Asked if anyone had stories about reconnecting with old flames. Within 3 hours, I had 5 DMs. 3 were vague. 2 were detailed. 1 included screenshots. Everin was a pattern, not a person. A pattern of grooming, gaslighting, and vanishing right before the woman began to question herself. He always left them doubting their decisions, not his. And he always started with phrases like, "You deserve to feel bigger than your space." Don't confuse comfort with growth. Who were you before he asked you to be smaller? That one hit me like a punch to the chest. Because Sabina had said something similar. Almost word for word. It wasn't just that she cheated, or even that she left. It was that she let him replace her lens on reality. And in doing so, she recast me as the villain in a movie I didn't know we were filming. She left out the part where I took care of her after her dental surgery. The part where I helped her mother move out of her mold-infested apartment. The part where I stayed up 4 nights in a row helping her build her Shopify store only for her to abandon it a week later. She edited me out. I called Coral again. Told her everything. She cried. Said, "We have to tell her." I said, "No. She has to see it." So I made a plan. I printed the screenshots. I collected testimonies. I made a digital folder with everything I found and scheduled it to send to her personal email, work email, and her iCloud, all at the same time. The night before she was set to fly to a conference with Everin. I included one sentence in the body of the email. "Are you still sure I didn't deserve you? Or did I just deserve better than this?" But I didn't hit send yet. I wanted one last thing first. Closure? Maybe. Control? Definitely. So I did something unhinged. Something I'd never admit to out loud if not for the veil of this anonymous forum. I went back to her place. She was still staying at Coral's, but she had a key drop-off in one of those fake rock things near her door. I used it. Everything was the same, yet wrong. Like stepping into a museum exhibit of our life, curated by someone with amnesia. My photo was still on the fridge, but only because it was under a magnet holding up a dry cleaning receipt. The house smelled like sandalwood and citrus instead of my detergent. The mail had a manila envelope addressed to Ms. Bram, Sabina. She had crossed out the Mrs. in black marker. That was it. That was the moment the rope finally snapped. I walked to the bedroom, opened her nightstand drawer, found her journal. I know I shouldn't have. I know. I'm not proud. But I opened it. One entry, written 3 days before she left. I saw Everin again today. I felt light. Alive. Wes would never understand that feeling. Not because he's cruel, but because he lives inside maintenance. He maintains houses, routines, systems me. Everin moves. Wes preserves. Another entry. 1 day after she left. I should feel bad. But I don't. Wes always saw me as something to protect. Everin sees me as something to unleash. That was the moment I closed the journal. Not out of guilt. Not even out of heartbreak. Out of realization. She never left me because I was bad to her. She left because I made her feel safe, and Everin made her feel dangerous. The next morning, I hit send. 3 emails. 5 files. 1 truth. And a countdown to the next part of my life. One where I'd either be completely forgotten or impossibly unforgettable. Either way, the story wasn't hers anymore. It was ours. And I was taking the narrative back. She opened the files. I know because I set trackers on each document. Simple web links embedded into the text. I watched in real time, from the quiet glow of my laptop in a dark living room, as each one got pinged. 6:03 p.m. Everin _testimony 1. 6:07 p.m. Screenshots from 2019. 6:12 p.m. Everin psych allegation. PDF. She was reading it all. Somewhere, probably at Coral's, maybe on the couch we bought together from that overpriced minimalist showroom she loved. She was probably barefoot, legs tucked under her like always, wine in one hand and my dignity in the other. She didn't call. She didn't text. But she opened every single document. Twice. I stayed up all night waiting for something. Anything. A scream. A confession. A denial. I would have even accepted a sarcastic, "Wow, nice detective work." But the silence was worse. It was surgical, strategic. And just when I began to believe I might never hear from her again, the ping came. 9:48 a.m. A message from Everin. No subject line. Just this. "Wes, I've read what you sent her. You're making a mistake. Let's talk. I stared at the screen like it had slapped me. Let's talk? No threat. No insult. Just an invitation. Like he wasn't the villain. Like he wasn't the interloper. Like I was the one stepping over a line. And that was the moment I realized something horrifying. He doesn't see himself as the other man. In his mind, I was the past. A dusty chapter she was finally brave enough to close. So I replied, "We don't have anything to talk about. Stay away from her." His reply came 6 minutes later. "Then maybe you should ask her why she sent me a voice note at 3 a.m. crying about how she ruined her life." My stomach dropped. I didn't believe him at first. Until Coral texted me, out of nowhere. She didn't sleep. Cried all night. Took the morning flight to Chicago early. Said she needed space. Chicago, where the conference was. Where Everin was. She went anyway. After everything. After I'd shown her the truth. After I'd pulled the curtain back and exposed the puppet master. No, there was no version of this that made sense. Unless she already knew. Unless she'd known some of it. Maybe not the whole picture. Maybe not the pattern. But enough to know she wasn't just falling in love. She was being consumed. And maybe that's why she couldn't stop. Because in some twisted part of her, she wanted to disappear into him. I went numb. For about 2 hours, I didn't move from my chair. I just kept rereading his message. "Let's talk." She cried. Ruined her life. Then came another email. This time from her. Subject line: "I don't know what I've done." The message itself was raw. No punctuation. Typos. Like it had been typed mid-panic. Once I saw it, I read all of it. "I hate that I didn't ask more questions. I hate that I let him in. I thought he was healing. I didn't know about the others. I didn't know about the therapist. I didn't know, I swear. But I can't breathe. I can't fix this. Not with you. Not with him. I just can't. I'm sorry." I read it a dozen times, trying to decode what she was actually saying. Was this an apology? A goodbye? A deflection? Because not once did she say what she was sorry for. For cheating? For leaving? For falling for a manipulator? For rewriting our story? No. She was sorry for the weight. The emotional debt she now owed to both of us. And once again, I wasn't a man in her life. I was a chapter that had closed too loudly. Coral called again later that afternoon. I let it ring 4 times before I picked up. "She's not well," Coral said. "She's holed up in the hotel. She canceled her keynote. She told Everin she needed time alone, but he's been texting her nonstop. Voice notes, poems, screenshots of news articles about soulmates. She doesn't know how to shut him out. She says he's in her head." I pressed my hand against my face. Hard. Just to feel something physical. Coral kept talking. "She asked me if you'd take her back." My heart twisted so hard it felt like it might vomit. I didn't answer. Because how do you answer a question like that when the person asking it only wants rescue from their own mess? Not reconciliation. That night, I dreamed I was underwater, holding my breath, watching her surface while I sank. She looked down at me with a look I couldn't decipher. Not pity, not love, not regret. Just observation. Like I was an artifact she couldn't reach anymore. When I woke up, I was drenched in sweat. My phone had 3 missed calls. 2 from Coral. 1 from a number I didn't recognize. Everin. He left a voicemail. I played it with trembling fingers, dreading his voice but desperate to hear it. "Wes, you think you've won. But I didn't take her from you. She left. I just happened to be where she landed. You don't get to rewrite her history just because she's scared now. That fear, it's part of growth. Let her choose that for herself. Be a man." He hung up. That word echoed in my skull. Choose. As if she ever really did. As if she hadn't been led, line by line, into a story where I was the anchor and he was the wind. But maybe this wasn't about who she chose anymore. Maybe it was about who I was willing to become now that the illusion had shattered. Because I was done watching. I was done begging for explanations from people who only gave riddles. I was going to Chicago. Not for closure. For truth. Chicago looked nothing like I remembered. The last time I'd been there was with Sabina, back when she still called me Wesley, during arguments, and not just when she needed something. We stayed in an Airbnb with a broken lock, ate cheap sushi by the river, and made love on a creaky Murphy bed while the L train howled outside. It was chaos. It was real. Now, the city felt like a backdrop in a movie I was never cast in. She was staying at a boutique hotel near West Loop. Coral told me. I told Coral not to. But she sent me the location anyway. "You're going to go," she texted. At least pretend to be the bigger person when you do. I don't remember the drive from the airport. Just my heartbeat. Louder than traffic. Louder than logic. I wasn't there for revenge. I wasn't even sure I was there for answers. I just needed to see her face when she saw mine. I checked into the hotel 2 floors below hers. Same building. Same elevators. Different worlds. For the first 5 hours, I sat in the lobby like a ghost, watching every entrance. Nothing. Not her. Not him. Then at 6:11 p.m., the elevator doors opened, and she walked out. Alone. Hair pulled back. No makeup. Same boots she wore to my brother's funeral. Her face was drawn, thin, pale, tired. But not in a way that made you pity her. In a way that made you wonder how long she'd been holding something in. She didn't see me. Not right away. I followed her. I know how that sounds. I do. And if you're reading this and thinking, dude, don't become the guy she left you to avoid. Trust me. I thought that, too. But I kept walking. She stopped at the vending machine down a side hall. Fumbled for her card. Pressed a button. Skittles. I waited until she turned around. She flinched when she saw me. Dropped the Skittles. Then just stared. Wes. Not a question. Not a plea. Just a name. We stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably 30 seconds. Her fingers curled around the edge of the machine like it might save her. Why are you here? I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. Then I finally said, because I needed to know if you were still real. She blinked. Once. Twice. Then, you shouldn't have come. But I did. Silence. She stepped toward me. Just one step. Did Coral send you? No. Did you listen to Evren's voicemail? Yeah. Her mouth twitched, like she was about to cry, but didn't. He's not what I thought he was, she whispered. Neither am I said. And suddenly, we weren't husband and wife anymore. We weren't enemies. We were just 2 people in a hallway with 2 mini versions of the past dragging behind us like suitcases with broken wheels. Then she said something I wasn't ready for. He tried to follow me into my room last night. I blinked. What? He showed up drunk. Said he needed to protect me from you. Said you were unstable. Said I was breaking a karmic cycle by staying with him. He was shaking. He looked cracked open, like a person coming undone. She rubbed her face. And for the first time, I saw it. The thing you were trying to tell me. Did he hurt you? She shook her head. No. But he could have. If I hadn't shut the door. I didn't know what to do with that. Relief and rage collided inside me like 2 drunks at last call. I looked down at the floor. At the Skittles scattered like confetti. Then I looked back up at her and said something I hadn't planned to say. Do you still love him? She didn't speak. Do you still love me? She opened her mouth. Then closed it. Then, I don't know how to love anyone right now. And honestly, that was the first true thing she'd said in months. She stepped past me, slowly, brushing my arm with hers. That single second of contact nearly shattered me. But I didn't stop her. I let her walk back to the elevator. She pressed the button. Waited. And then she said, without turning, you were the only place I ever felt safe. And that made me hate myself. The doors opened. She stepped in. Didn't look back. That night, I went back to my room and found another email. From Evren. Subject line. You made her afraid again. That's your legacy. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to Sabina instead. Then I packed my bag, checked out early, and drove 3 hours into the middle of nowhere just to scream into a field and throw my wedding ring into a stream so shallow it barely moved. It didn't float. It just stayed there, like it was waiting. This story isn't over. Not yet. Because 3 days later, I got a knock on my door. Not a call. Not a text. A knock. And when I opened it, she was standing there. No suitcase. No excuses. Just eyes full of something I hadn't seen since our wedding day. Terror. Hope. And a truth she was finally ready to say. She stood at my doorstep like a guest at her own funeral. Not in the rain. Not with tears. None of that cinematic drama. Just quiet. Still. As if she was waiting for me to decide what kind of scene this would be. I didn't ask why she came. I didn't move. I just stood there, gripping the inside of the doorframe like it was the only thing keeping me upright. She said one sentence. I'm not here to fix things. That line hit harder than I expected. Because somewhere, buried under all the fury and exhaustion, I think I wanted her to say something else. I think I wanted a movie ending. Or a monologue. Or a slap. Something loud. Something final. But instead, she walked past me like she used to, like she still belonged, and sat on the edge of the couch we used to make Sunday plans on. The couch she cried on the night her mother died. The couch she once told me she wanted to name our daughter after her great-grandmother if we ever had one. "Can I talk?" she asked. I nodded. My mouth was too full of shame to answer out loud. She started slowly. Not with apologies. With truth. I thought Everin was a door. A portal out of something that felt like repetition. Safety can start to feel like suffocation when you never open a window. And he opened every window at once. He made me feel chaotic. Alive. Chosen. I confused intensity with honesty. I thought because he saw through me, it meant he understood me. But it wasn't seeing. It was mirroring. He mirrored whatever I needed, until I became addicted to the reflection. She looked down at her hands. Still no tears. And you? You were real. Too real. I couldn't hide from myself around you. I hated that. She finally met my eyes. That wasn't your fault. That was mine. My throat tightened. I didn't know what to do with this. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't closure. It was just a mirror I wasn't ready to look into. Then she told me something else. Everin didn't just manipulate me. He studied me. He took pieces of things I told him in confidence and fed them back to me as wisdom. He said things you never said, but used words I wanted you to say. He built a better version of you in my head and moved into it before I realized it wasn't real. She took a breath. The scariest part? I still miss that version sometimes, even knowing it was fake. I sat down across from her, not beside her. "Why are you telling me this?" I finally asked. She hesitated. "Because I think you deserve the truth, not just the blame." "Do you want me back?" "No," she said too quickly. Then softer, "Not yet. Maybe not ever. I'm not here for that. I'm here because I need to ask you for something else." That stopped me. "What?" "He's threatening to leak private messages. From me. From other women. Some stuff that could cost me my job. He's framing it as a reckoning, like he's the one who was wronged. I know what you found on him. I know what you sent me. But if I go to the police, I lose everything. And if I don't, he wins." This was the moment. The moment I thought would never come. The moment where she asked me to save her. And I wish I could tell you I said no. That I stood up for myself. That I told her to lie in the bed she made with someone else. That I protected my dignity instead of hers. But I didn't. Because I'm not built like that. I'm the kind of man who still puts out fires in a house he doesn't live in anymore. Over the next 3 days, I helped her build a legal case. I gave her every file, every statement, every screenshot. I reached out to 2 women who told me they were willing to speak if it came to court. I connected her with a friend of mine who works in digital security. We drafted statements. We organized timelines. We pulled receipts. She stayed at Coral's during that time. We didn't touch. We didn't flirt. We barely made eye contact. It was like co-parenting a crisis we both created. But somewhere between the war room strategy sessions and the silent Uber rides, I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. She never stopped needing me. She just didn't want to need me. And now that she had to, she hated herself for it. On the last day, she sent the legal threat to Everin's lawyer. We watched the receipt turn green. He never responded. But 2 hours later, every post on his social media vanished. His website redirected to an error page. His number stopped working. He ghosted the world the way he'd ghosted his past victims. Like a coward. Like a man caught mid-performance with the curtain torn down. And Sabina? She sat at the kitchen table, her hands trembling, eyes unfocused. "I thought I'd feel powerful," she said. "I just feel empty." "That's because you're finally safe." She looked at me then. And for the first time, I didn't see someone who broke me. I saw someone already broken, trying to glue herself together with pieces that didn't quite fit anymore. That night, I walked her to her car. She hugged me. Not like a lover, not like an apology. Like a widow hugging the man who pulled her out of the wreckage. "You were always the better man," she whispered. "No," I said. "Just the one who stayed behind." She smiled. The saddest smile I've ever seen. "Same thing sometimes." She drove off. And this time, I didn't wait at the window. There's something indescribable about opening your front door and seeing the person who destroyed your world, looking like she just crawled out of her own wreckage. No umbrella. No bags. Just her, drenched in light drizzle, hair in knots, mascara barely holding on, as if the clouds had followed her like guilt. She didn't say hi. Didn't ask if she could come in. She just looked at me like she'd been rehearsing this moment every night and still forgot the lines. I stepped aside. Not because I forgave her, Not because I was ready, but because there was still a stupid, stubborn part of me that couldn't let her stand in the rain. Not even now. She walked in slowly, looking around like she was afraid the furniture would accuse her. Everything was how she left it. Same couch, same scent. The only thing that had changed was the energy. This wasn't her home anymore. Not really. But somehow, she still moved like it remembered her. I asked her, flatly, "Why are you here, Sabina?" She sat at the edge of the armchair like it might bite her if she leaned back too far. She rubbed her hands together, glanced at the floor, then finally said, "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not here to undo what I did. I'm just done lying. To you. To myself." That's when she looked me straight in the eye. Not with pity, not with arrogance, with a kind of emptiness I wasn't ready for. "You were right about him," she said. "Everin, he isn't just a manipulator. He's a collector. He collects broken women and makes them feel like found treasure. And then he hides the box." I didn't interrupt. I couldn't. My throat was too tight. She continued. "After the conference, he wouldn't leave me alone. Texts, voice notes. He said we were unfinished. Said I owed it to him to complete the arc. He showed up at the hotel, Wes. He banged on my door at 2 in the morning. Said I was regressing. That I was a coward for running back to my emotional captor. That's what he called you. My captor." I laughed. I couldn't help it. Not because it was funny, but because it was so insane, so upside down, that it almost didn't feel real. Sabina smiled bitterly. "I told him to go to hell. Locked the door. Blocked his number. Packed my things at 5 a.m. and flew back here. I couldn't go home. I didn't know where to go. But the moment the plane landed, I knew I had to see you. Not because I want to get back together, but because I can't breathe without owning what I did to you." Now I was the one sitting. Not because I wanted to, but because my legs felt like they might collapse. All the weight she had thrown on me months ago was finally boomeranging back around her neck. But I wasn't happy. I wasn't vindicated. I just felt tired. Exhausted in a way no amount of sleep would ever fix. "Do you still love him?" I asked, staring out the window. She didn't hesitate. "I loved the version of me I thought I could become with him. I never loved him. Not really." That felt worse than a yes. "And me?" I asked. My voice cracked more than I expected. "Did you ever actually love me? Or was I just the pit stop before you figured yourself out?" She looked at me then, really looked. "You were the only thing that ever made sense. And that's what terrified me. You never needed to control me. You never tried to fix me. And I didn't know what to do with a love like that. So I set fire to it before I could be exposed." I stared at her like she was a ghost. Maybe she was. A ghost of the woman I married. A woman I had buried without realizing I was still holding her hand the whole time. "I don't want to be rescued," she said. "I don't want you to be the guy who sacrifices himself just because I'm crying on your doorstep. I just needed you to know. I see it now. I see what I did. And I hate myself for how long I defended it." Silence. A long one. Heavy. Then she pulled something from her coat pocket. A small envelope. I didn't want to take it, but I did. Inside was a flash drive. "Everything," she whispered. "Screenshots, recordings, messages. Not just him. Me too. I want you to have it. Do what you want with it. Expose me. Bury it. I won't fight you." I nodded. Not because I knew what I'd do, but because there was nothing left to say. She stood, walked toward the door, hesitated, then turned back one last time. "You deserved better than what I became." And then she left. Not with drama. Not with a bang. Just the soft click of the door behind her, like a final period at the end of a story I didn't want to finish. I held that flash drive in my palm for an hour before I moved. My mind raced with what it might hold. Her admissions. His threats. Maybe something even darker. But I didn't plug it in. Not yet. Because I knew, deep down, that whatever was on that drive had the power to rewrite everything again. But I also knew something else. I wasn't the same man she left. And I wasn't the same man she came back to. I was something else now. Something colder. Smarter. More dangerous with silence. I stared at the flash drive for a long time before I finally plugged it in. No dramatic music. No red alert files. Just a folder named in lowercase. Us. Inside were subfolders. Everin, me, Wes, drafts, voice_notes. Like she had sorted the evidence of her downfall alphabetically. I opened Everin first. Screenshots. Dozens of them. Texts that started flirtatious, then unhinged. Audio files of him talking to himself, rehearsing messages. One where he said, If she won't love me, I'll make her feel what it's like to be unloved. I opened voice_notes next. The first one was dated 3 days before the reunion. Her voice was tired. Raw. I keep waking up and wondering if I'm faking my own life. Wes doesn't see it. Or maybe he does. Maybe he's just waiting for me to come home emotionally, and I never left. Another note. 1 week after she moved out. I thought I'd feel free, but I feel scattered. Like I broke my own compass and now I'm following someone else's map. The last one was from 3 days ago, the night before she showed up at my door. I'm terrified to see him again, but I think I need him to see me. Not to fix it, not to take me back, just to look at me and know I finally understand the gravity of what I did. I cried, not for her, for me, for all the times I thought I was invisible, for all the nights I stared at our old photos wondering if I had imagined the good parts, for the man who kept choosing her even after she chose someone else. I cried until I couldn't anymore. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I deleted the entire folder. Not out of mercy, out of freedom. She had finally returned something I thought was lost forever, the truth. And once I had it, I didn't need revenge anymore. I needed a beginning. 6 months later, I wake up early. Not because I'm anxious, but because I like the quiet. I make coffee in a new kitchen. Smaller house. Fewer memories. My dog, Tank, has taken to sitting in the sunspot by the window like a philosopher. I joined a group therapy program for people recovering from emotional trauma. I stopped calling it heartbreak. It's more than that. It's rebirth. Sabina and I aren't back together. We don't need to be. We've exchanged a few letters. Real ones. Ink and paper. No emojis. She's living in Asheville now. Took a job at a bookstore. Volunteers at a women's shelter. She says she's learning how to live without chasing chaos. And I've started dating again. Slowly. Not looking for the fireworks. Looking for warmth. Consistency. The things I once believed were boring until someone made me question their worth. My business is still running. I hired an apprentice. We listen to podcasts in the truck instead of arguing about music. It's not glamorous, but it's honest. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I belong in my own skin. Last week, I got one last message. A real one. Not anonymous. It was from a woman named Isla, one of the women who had been manipulated by Evren years before. She saw the fallout from the legal threat Sabina and I built. She said he's disappeared completely. No new accounts. No new projects. No whispers. Sometimes justice is loud. Sometimes it's just silence that stays. So here I am, writing this final post. Not because I need advice anymore, but because if someone else out there is sitting alone in a house they built with love, wondering how it all went wrong, I want you to know this. You are not the version of you they abandoned. You are what's left when they're gone. And that's where the rebuilding begins.